Hi, it's Maggie with Golden Lights Within, and today I'm going to be talking about how to become more present with nature. And, for me, I've used nature to become more present and more calm and regulated, and sometimes just to feel more alive if I'm just kind of like stuck and in a rut. If you go outside, whether, whatever it's like, where you live, whether it's in the mountains or the beaches or just like on a nature trail, it does make you feel more alive. And especially if you use it in a way to become more present, so you're not distracted by either mind chatter or technology or other things like that. If you really tune in and use it for that, you'll feel even more regulated and calm and grounded and alive and just more true to yourself. It just gives you that time and that energy. So that's why I believe it's really important to talk about ways to become more present with nature. And, because I wrote out, an outline of my thoughts about this and what I've used, and I was looking at the list, I was like, these are all things where you're not really like doing anything, but that is the point. And I feel like the more I've learned about health and been on my own health journey, the more I've realized that being present and figuring out the best ways to do that and really not doing anything and learning how to have a still mind and a still body is the pathway to better health and living happily and joyfully. So it's not doing more, it's doing way less. In fact, it's learning the art of stillness and presence. And, I always thought for the longest time it was, you have to do more, do this exercise, take this pill, this and that and the other. And really, it is learning how to be with yourself quietly and just being peaceful in that stillness. So that is why, it's not anything fancy, right? And I think we all just, our minds like want this crazy thing that's going to bring us this inner peace and health and happiness. And it's truly learning how to quiet that mind chatter and be with yourself. So that's why I feel like this stuff is really important. And I'm going to go over just 3 ways that I use nature to tap into that and to feel more healthy, more alive, more calm with nature. So number 1 is that you can be present with the sunrise and sunset. And I talk a lot about like the health benefits of this from like more of a biology standpoint. In the other videos, there's like a morning light and an evening light video that you can check out. But for, the premise of being more present, when you watch the sunrise or the sunset or both, you really have to just stop and be immersed in the experience if you really want to view the sunrise or sunset. And something about watching that change in color really can kind of help calm you down and immerse you in the experience. So just again, something about it slows you down, helps you feel more in sync with the flow of the day, the flow of nature, and something about too just reflecting on, bookending your day or starting your day with that sunrise or sunset just helps you tap more into the present moment. And I also think for me too, when I'm watching the sunrise or sunset, of course, without technology or other distractions, I am freed from a lot of that psychological drama. So that like worrying about the future or ruminating about something in the past, right? Just challenge yourself to like have that time to watch the sunrise or sunset and really free your mind from that psychological drama, free yourself from the technology, and just focus on absorbing and immersing yourself in that sunrise or sunset, having that calm, quiet, peaceful time. And I think it's really awesome too that you can kind of start and end your day on that note. So using the sunrise or sunset is almost like a meditation, like a meditative time to sit there quietly, peacefully with yourself, not needing anything else. I can't stress that enough, not needing a book, like anything to drag your attention away, right? You can have your water, your tea, or something like that, of course, but like just being there, watching it, just feeling what you're feeling, and really immersing yourself in that present moment and what that is. And I think that you'll find that truly that present moment is perfect. It feels so good, and you'll want more of that over time. But I think that it's a good thing to tie it to. So practicing that presence at sunrise and sunset. So that's number one. And then another one is called the flower meditation method. I'm calling it that. I can't remember. So I actually read about this in the book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and I highly recommend that book. But one of the meditation methods that they talked about is, you take a flower. I believe it was a flower, but I've done it with flower, so I'm going to call it the flower meditation method. You could pick up anything in nature, like a twig, a rock, whatever. But you're holding that and just looking at it and focusing on that flower or whatever it is you chose from nature. And the point of that, right, is if you're immersing yourself, just, concentrating on it, focusing on it, you are freed from that mind chatter that I talked about in the last point. So that psychological drama of, the past and the future. You are just solely in this moment with this flower or this rock or this twig. And, it's interesting because I did it with this specific flower over the course of a few days. And so I think the first day I did it, it was cloudy. So the flower looked a little bit different. The petals looked a little bit different. It was like a pink. It was a really pretty pinkish orange flower. And the next day it was sunny, and I noticed that it was more like the petal was more translucent. Like I could see the sun almost like shining through it. It was really beautiful. And I was just thinking to myself, I really probably would have never looked at it that closely or noticed that beauty if I hadn't almost like studied it, and I'm talking like just a few minutes. Obviously you can build up over time, but it is that like anchor, having that nature object in your hand that you are looking at and, seeing how it feels, just observing how it looks like in the light, and that's how I noticed that with the petals. And it was just an interesting observation for me that I wouldn't have noticed that or I just hadn't really looked so deeply at something. And it was a really interesting practice, but it does 100% bring you to the present moment and stop that just constant flow of mind chatter and thoughts that we have, so that you can just be. And that is so important to your health. And so again, having that time to do that is really important. So this flower method, if you will, if you like to look at, twigs or rocks or whatever it is that you find on the ground, you could do that too. But the point is to find something from nature and use that as your anchor and work on being more present with it. So that's the second tip I have. And then the third tip is to walk outside in nature without technology, headphones, distractions. And I do have a whole video about how to be more present when you're walking outside, and so you can check that out. But I've always found that it is like the perfect activity to do to be more present, and it definitely takes it to the next level when you're outside in nature and you don't have, your phone notifications on, or it's on airplane mode, or, you don't have your headphones in listening to a podcast. Like, you get really immersed in the now, especially if you're in more of like a nature trail area with trees all around you. And just encouraging yourself to look around, to notice the smells and what you're seeing and hearing, and immersing yourself in that experience. So it almost forces you to be in the present. So again, like I said earlier in the video, I know that it seems like these are health tips, like you're not doing anything really, but this is the pathway. It's learning how to just be with yourself, not be so identified with all of the thoughts and the stressors and the things going on that is so hard on your mind and body to have, and your soul to just constantly be in flux with that. So learning this being present is so important, and I'm on that journey too. You know, this is something that I'm clearly passionate about and I'm working on actively in my own life, and that's why I wanted to share these tips. And I think it's a journey and you have to be gentle with yourself and build over time, but I truly do believe that this is the foundation. This is, you know, really where we need to be as far as creating health and abundance and living, you know, to the best of our ability with our truest selves in this world and showing up as our truest self. This is where it starts. So thank you so much for listening to Golden Lights Within, and I will see you in the next video.